Uh, this is Mark Spears from ESPN's The Undefeated with another episode of Beyond 28. And there's a lot of interesting dudes in the NBA, man. There's LeBron's an interesting cat. Kevin Durant's an interesting cat. So is Steph Curry. But I say this with all sincerity. I don't know if there's a more interesting man on and off the court in the NBA than this month's guest, Andre Iguodala. How you doing, Dre?
I'm hanging in there, man. Appreciate the kind words. I'm just trying to stay out the way.
But well, let me give you your flowers first. Dust your shoulder. This is a 3-time NBA champion, an NBA Finals MVP. He probably doesn't know it, but I actually voted for him when he won MVP. So congratulations on that honor. And I got heat for it, but you deserved it. Olympic gold medalist, something people don't talk about enough. Won a World Cup as well. And then there's the things about him that I truly enjoy about the well-roundedness, I guess, of Andre. He's one that promotes social justice. He's a vice president of the NBA Players Association. He's an amazing investor who made Klay Thompson a lot of money. One day I want to ask him about that. He kind of just slipped that in a recent press conference. Also does this amazing Players Tech Summit, Players Technology Summit, which I hope comes back.
Yes, for sure.
Invested in Facebook, Twitter, Tesla. He even has Andre as his handle. I don't know how he did that. But welcome, Andre Iguodala, man. Welcome, and thanks for coming on Beyond 28.
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Got to get the wheels back rolling again. So season's about to start up, and just on a good grind, and always enjoy the good grind.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I'm gonna jump right into it, man. This episode is actually about the athlete as an activist and how individuals, especially in the NBA, are using their platforms to promote social justice. How has your voice and passion for these issues evolved since first joining the NBA?
I think it's just, continue to do my research. As you get older, more experienced, more refined, having a better understanding of the world, you live in, you exist in, and, trying to see the world from others' perspective. Just gathering all this data and trying to evolve with it. Just, learn a lot about myself, learn a lot about others, and, you start to learn about, what leverage means, when's the right time. It's always the right time to speak up, but just kind of how you voice your message and through the means and what platforms you push it out through, and then how you can do it, and how important it is to be unified and the message is put together with a certain group of guys, and having an understanding who's going to resonate with that message, who's just getting out to, and how far of a reach you can get with it being not just you, but amongst others who are revered globally, which is a crazy thing to even say. It sounds crazy coming out of my mouth, but just being a part of the Player Association and seeing the inner workings of that, and how much power that, how much influence us as African American men, how we have that influence across the globe, and how that's collective, second to none globally. It's a powerful statement, and when we start to understand that, I think we're starting to understand it more and more. Then we get a grasp of how far we can go with our message, and how much impact we can actually make.
Right. I want to kind of bring you back to your childhood. Who were the people or family members or just the events in your life that helped shape your mind to eventually be able to speak out, to be woke, to be an activist? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it started at a young age. My mother and grandmother, and they weren't afraid of conflict. They weren't afraid to speak their minds, and like I saw it in action. I saw it. It's the NAACP actually started in Springfield, Illinois. We had the Urban League. Mother worked for Springfield Housing Authority. We had different events that celebrated Black history, Black life, and was always just proud to be who I am. So, I spoke about it in my book, but it just, I had that foundation very early on, and just interacting with people who didn't see me as equal to them from other races, and kind of how my mother dealt with that and how she moved forward with it. Just all those things, they stick with you. A lot of things from a child stick with you, and that was a lot of those moments occurred with me just like being at the forefront of it, like seeing it up close and live and in color, kind of just shaped the foundation and kind of how I move forward and how I think in life.
Any incident in particular really spark you from your youth?
Yeah, it was a couple, from, being rejected from housing to rent a home based upon being accepted based on a voice. My mother was able to, um, she was really good at being able to move from room to room and be able to converse with different social economic classes. And she kind of had her white voice, and then her cultural voice, and she can speak different vernaculars. And just seeing that we were accepted to rent a home, but when we showed up in person, to the owner of the home, the voice didn't match the present physical features, so it was just rejected. And then just the different interactions with throughout school, having teachers thinking that I was in the wrong class on the first day, and that impression of I'm not supposed to be in the smart or the advanced classes. That occurred a few times. The side eyes you get, and then over time, you become their favorite student. But being aware of that in the moment, I think that's when I started to see that I was different from those that looked like me, or the other athletes who I had no idea that athletes struggle in class, because it was just normal to me to do well in class. And once, as you get older, you start realizing that. You say, okay, you got to take advantage of the opportunities, because you're in a unique position.
What age were you at the housing incident?
Oh, that housing incident, I was young, probably like 10, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, around it.
Yeah. You replaced LeBron James 2 years ago as vice president of the NBA Players Association. Part of your mission has been to change the way the league handles its role in facilitating solutions to the persistent inequities plaguing the Black community. In what ways has the league stepped up to meet that challenge? And in what ways has things continued to fall short?
Well, I think the Disney bubble was a pretty big movement for us as players, before, during, and after. Kind of, you know, there's a financial incentive to keep the business going, and there's a basketball side and there's a financial side, and you always want the basketball side to outweigh the financial side. The purity of the game is what's most important. But in that situation, what's going on in the world with the pandemic, it was, the financial side outweighed it. So, you know, there was a lot of talk about, what's the point of it all, what's going on with the world. But the lowest on the totem pole economically, they're always hit the hardest in these times, and that's our communities where we come from. So what we did was say, let's make it bigger than us. Obviously there's a financial side, we do get paid, but we really had a very wide scope on, or not even wide, it's the opposite of a wide scope. We had a scope to zoom in on our communities, and how can we be most impactful to them? How can we raise the awareness of what's going on? And it's almost like George Floyd situation. I'm not saying, I wouldn't say it woke America up, but it made us wake up in terms of our voice, and expressing it more and more each and every day. And everything we do, all our decisions with our branding, with how we train, with how we wake up, how we think, it's starting to evolve and starting to think about the bigger picture. And it's not really based on us individually, but more so on our community and the larger impact and the things that we can do to press forward and move in the right direction um, to really get this thing right with what America really stands for. You got the Declaration of Independence, you got the Bill of Rights, and even on the money it says all men are created equal, but it's faulted severely since its inception, and a lot of its morals and values.
Yeah. Man, I remember back in the bubble, man, I was in there with you. You were certainly one of the more vocal participants in the work stoppage that arrived after the police shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Take me back to that time as part of, you were a member of the Heat at that time? Well, no, not the, yeah. You remember the Heat, but you were also part of the union and you're talking to the NBA. Like, I don't know how stressful it was for you at that time, for you and Chris Paul, who was the president of the union at that time, Michelle Roberts, the executive director at that time. But take me back to those moments and how you guys came to the conclusion to return back to action.
Well, yeah, I think give all the credit to Michelle Roberts and uh, getting the right frame of mind in place for us to really have some things to focus on in terms of how we're going to go forward with our message and what we're trying to do. So, you got different sides of an issue, and ultimately, it's all the same goal. How can we have our voices heard and felt in terms of how we're feeling as a community, as players, and uh, Michelle just put it in the right perspective in terms of this is the way to be most impactful with your voices, and it's the action on the court. So we get the most eyeballs, especially during that time. Football hadn't started, and baseball was trying to figure it out with their schedule. But we were. I think it might have been the only big league to be able to exist in that type of environment with the bubble and being isolated and the safety measures, and we only have 14 15 guys per team, so it was feasible the way we did it. So we said we're the most physical athletes on the planet right now, and if we're not in action, then people aren't going to hear us as much as they would if we're on that grand stage, and all the networks were dying for live content, and just trying to make up for um, the losses on the financial side with everything being shut down. So with all that being said, it was like, here's how we can voice our pain. Here's how we can be impactful. Here's how we can make light of the situation that's been occurring in our community on the grandest stage with the most eyeballs. And here's how we set up the foundation for our committee to the NBA players, the governors, to come together and start pushing forward the right agendas to even on the political side, with the Jacob Blake bill, or the Jacob Blake bill, which is for a new way of policing the actual police. There's so many different things going on in terms of defunding the police, or the proper protocols, or there were some great things put in place, or great things being brought to light or brought to the table. And I think it was a player who, he had an initiative that he had been working on for quite some time. He was able to bring it in front of, some of the more wealthier individuals in the world who have that influence in the right places. I'm talking about state and national government, and how we can push these things forward, and how we can play the game, and we can have Black Lives Matter on the court, or we can talk about, small business, uh, marketing and advertising during the game. Like all those things, we were just able to say, hey, this is a much stronger thing if we're out here playing and we're actually playing for something that's bigger than us.
Take me back to your decision of putting group economics on the back of your jersey. I think you were the only one that did that too.
Yeah, it was three of us. It was three of us. It was myself. It was Anthony Tolliver, and I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the third guy, but it was three of us, and
Okay.
that was there's a long backstory to that, but essentially came from David West. David West had spoken into existence, and one of those things no one knew quite what he meant or what he was or what it was and how it works. And essentially, African Americans are the biggest consumer spenders. So we spend the most money on consumer products per capita because, obviously when you talk about populations, we aren't the top in the population, but, per our population, we spend the most money, but our money is least recycled within our community. So, for every $10 we spend, we have the least amount coming back that's spent within the Black community. So group economics is something that's practiced by a few other cultures, and it's very successful in terms of rebuilding your community, putting money back in your community. So that leads to more funding, better schools, where the state is more valuable. And that leads to more leverage politically when there's, laws put in place and policing put in place, and it goes to the fire department, the hospitals, all those things, the right infrastructure that are put in place. All those things start with group economics. And when David West first said the word, most guys didn't look too deep into it, but just myself wanted to do some homework and kind of do some back end research on my own and see what this thing is really about. I saw how impactful it really is, and how it brings, cultures into the forefront of respect globally, and just something that our community is missing, and wanted to shed light on that.
Um, who coming into the league, or maybe even before you got to the league, who are some of the trailblazers you looked up to, or people you looked up to in terms of social justice?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a certain sacrifice that comes with taking on that. I don't know if you call it responsibility, but it's a tall task because you know um, there can be financial repercussions based on your views, and that's why I spoke earlier. You gotta be very cautious of how you move and how you speak, because they try to use it against you to kind of quiet you. They don't want too much riffraff. They want smooth sailing. Like I said, the business side, they're in it for the business, and for whatever reasons, maybe it's just some just have the lack of knowledge, some just don't care to know, and some just don't want to know. There's a lot that goes on where we come from, and we trying to right the ship. It is our duty to shed light on these things, and try to be a part of the solution. Um, but as they find ways to uh, keep it hush, and they do that by uh, you may not be as much in the spotlight, uh, being more woke, as we say, as opposed to just kind of playing it PC. So going back, obviously you had your Jim Brown, you had your Muhammad Ali. Uh, those were the main names. Not just to say they were the only names, but I put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in there. Um, and it's interesting right now because we're going through this thing with the COVID, and who should take the vaccine and who shouldn't. And yeah, I feel like all these things is always trying to be to push a divide within our communities, and we can disagree, but we're still united in this thing. Um, but even see, with someone like Craig Hodges, who kind of his career was kind of lost in it. So you kind of have to, you got to know your profile where you stand, and sometimes it may be a sacrifice in your career to kind of make a stand for it. your beliefs and pushing out what's right and speaking on what's going on for our entire community. So, you know, it's ended the career of a few, and even Muhammad Ali took a huge sacrifice on how much time he lost throughout his prime.
You uh, said once it's not a political organization or a political agenda; it's a human agenda. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I talked about it before, it's like it's that divide. Divide and conquer is something that has been used against our community for a very long time. We even talk about crabs in the barrel. They use that against us. But I think what Jay-Z said, uh, crabs don't exist, or they weren't meant to be in a barrel. That's not their proper environment. So different tactics have been put in place to keep us at odds with one another. You go back to the brown paper bag theory, lights versus darks, and the house versus the field workers during slavery. All those things were used as a tactic to divide us and keep us from really being unified, because they know the power that we have. We're unified. That goes back to group economics. So when we talk about politics, it's just a way to divide us. But it's, we would historically we've never really been into politics. We're picking a side, whether it be this side or that side. But they've kind of forced us to pick a side to divide us a little bit. So that's what that whole thing was about.
Do you think the momentum from the bubble, in terms of activism, fighting against social injustice and police brutality, has continued or kind of slowed?
I think it's continuing, because it's always on our minds. I think once you're deeply involved in something, you come out of it with a brand new perspective. And so for the guys who, they were trying to just keep their careers on the right track, or just their careers are just starting, so it's tough to ask a young guy to do certain things. So as being a veteran, you owe those guys your time, your energy to really protect them and say, okay, you can be a part of the fight, but we'll keep you in a safe haven to where they can't attack you in any shape or form or fashion. So, but they were able to see it and they were able to feel it, what was going on. So coming out of it, I think our players are always getting smarter and smarter through each generation. We say you take care of the next one by setting them up for even better success. So I feel like that was great for them to see and go through that. And I think, guys aren't afraid to speak up anymore, and they're ready for action at any given moment.
You're back with the Warriors now, and I'm curious, when you're on the planes and have those down moments with Dre and Steph and Clay, how deep do those conversations get?
Yeah, obviously Clay going through what he's gone through. His last game I actually played with him, which is crazy. But he has a chance to. He decided to get back. Not many athletes have gone through what he's gone through and got back. So his perspective, and he's been very open and vocal about uh, every moment is precious because it could be taken away from you, and it just shows it's a testament of who he is to get back to full form through what he's went through. So his conversations are a little bit on a different level. We're having, great business conversation. Draymond, just having a baby girl. We were talking about that, and how deep that goes and what that means. And then, Steph and I, obviously, we spend a lot of time together on and off the court. And, our conversations are, very, it's on a wide spectrum. So we can go from any end of the spectrum and go very in depth with what we're talking about and our relationship growing. It's been something very special.
Couple quick questions, three more quick questions, and I'll let you go, man. Appreciate your time. Ultimately, why did you come back to Golden State?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm still trying to figure that out. It's just, when I talk about, playing with the Warriors, I just smile. I smile a lot, because it was just pure joy playing with these guys and what we were able to build. And, you don't really know it when you're in it, but like we moved the world, you know what I mean? Like the world felt us and did something special. And the new age media and social media and everything that goes into it and the politics behind it, it can kind of take it away from it sometimes. Like sometimes you forget to enjoy the moment because you're just like, all right, we did it, but we got to prove that we're worthy. It's like, who are you proving you're worthy to? It's like, we already did that by just getting here, but we did something really special that we remember for forever. We still talk about, Bill Russell and the Boston Celtics team that won all those championships, and each era they had their special moments, and we had a very special moment over NBA history. So it always puts a smile on my face, and to possibly end it here, I don't think that there's a better ending to my career, what I've accomplished, and being with these guys. And I just spoke about three of them, and that's really what it was. Just being locked in with Draymond, like really enjoy it. Just seeing Clay get back, really enjoying that, and then being back with Steph, and I got to see him play at this level from the outside looking in was very special. Like, you don't get to appreciate it when you're in it, like I said before, because you're just in it and you just focus on one particular task at a time, and it's just another task after another task, so you don't really get to enjoy those moments. So seeing him, what he's done in the last 2 years that I've been gone, has been unreal, and just now I can get to really appreciate it and come back and just be a part of it as well, and to end my career is to be special if it happens that way.
And the last question, kind of a two-parter. Is this potentially a swan song for you? And also, have you thought much about, you got so much going on, I know you're prepared for it, life after basketball and what your plans will be?
Yeah, yeah. I don't. It's funny because I'm thinking that this isn't the first time I thought this might be it. Like, I've had those moments in year 10. I had it. No, it was before year 10. It was like year 8. I thought, like, might got 1 or 2 left, and go enjoy life. Just being in the thick of being a professional athlete, like, you're always on guard. You can never just relax. That's on or off the court. So going back that far, I've thought about it, and then obviously over the past couple of years, it's like when to step away. So I don't know. It may be, it may not be. You have practices where it's like, oh, I can do it for a couple more years. So I had one of those practices already. So we'll see how the next 8 or 9 months go. And but off the court, it's a lot going on. I'm excited to get to it, but really want to enjoy the game. I want to enjoy my teammates. So I'm in the thick of that right now. So it's just set up for me to stay. I mean, I'm working full time on both sides. So my kids, this is being recorded. I apologize because I'm like working. I'm working, but it's good work. It's good grind. It's ultimately for them too.
Well, Dre, man, thanks for coming on Beyond 28 and continued success. Welcome back to the Warriors and enjoy this season.
Appreciate you.
All right. Take care.